Talk about bleeding the maroon and white of the Dunkirk Marauders. No one does it better than Frank Jagoda II, both as an athlete and as a coach. Frank graduated from Dunkirk High School in 1979, where he lettered in both baseball and basketball. Growing up, he also played in the Dunkirk Little League, Dunkirk Babe Ruth League, where baseball and basketball were his true passions. During his baseball days at Dunkirk, he was a three-time All-Star pitcher, leading his team to 2 league titles, 2 sectional titles, and a super sectional championship. From 1980 to 85, he pitched for the University of Buffalo and later for teams in the Canadian League. He began his counseling career working for Sherman Central School, then to Silver Creek and Forestville, finally landing a job for the Dunkirk school system in 1990, which really began his coaching legacy, where he has been coaching the most sports in Dunkirk history. Frank was meant to be on the baseball diamond, where he achieved his most success. He has led the Dunkirk Marauders for 28 years and became the winningest coach in Dunkirk history with 366 wins to go along with his league titles, sectional titles, and 2 Far West regionals. He has mentored 10 All-Western New York players, watched 45 of his players attend college. 4 of his players have become professional baseball players in the major leagues. Besides his high school, he has coached in the Little League, the Babe Ruth League, the American League, the Buffalo Police Athletic League, and the All-American Amateur Baseball Association. Frank retired as a school counselor in 2019, but to this day, he still coaches for the varsity baseball team for the Dunkirk Marauders, and I'm sure glad that I get to see him every year, and God bless him for that. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce Frank Jagoda as a 2023 inductee.
The first person I'd like to thank is Coach Pete Crishone for submitting my nomination for induction into the Hall of Fame. I would also like to thank the entire Hall of Fame committee for enduring this unenviable task and taking the time to consider my credentials worthy of standing alongside some of the greatest contributors to athletics and education of sport in Chautauqua County. It can be a thankless job at best. But I got to tell you, given the heavy hitters that have been chosen here tonight, and never being accused of being humble myself, I would say they did a pretty damn good job. After all, anyone compared to the fastest human in the 100 and 200-yard dashes in Chautauqua County history to this day, my cousin Bobby the Bullet Barlett, who was my hero, my idol, my sponsor during confirmation, and now my great friend. The Gallardo and Jagoda families are so honored that we have been selected to be here tonight together as cousins. I can't tell you enough what it means to both of us. It's pretty soon. Well, what I want to talk about a little bit is about all the people that are here tonight, and I congratulate all the inductees. I mean, pretty soon, Jay Sirianni and Amy Swanson, you're going to have a separate place in the Hall of Fame over there for the Swansons and Sirianni family. And pretty soon, then you got Scott Kinberg, who's going to follow me as well, who single-handedly made our careers bigger than life with his descriptions of sporting events we have been a part of, similar to that of my good friend Dan Palmer on the radio. Congratulations to all the inductees this evening. But here's the thing, it's my hope that you really take the time to read the bios and the remarks, even though mine is 8 pages long, because I've been told I only have 5 minutes here tonight, and it's just not fair. It's just not fair. But it is my hope that and I have a couple of tidbits in here, so if you read on, okay, there are some special surprises at the bar later on for everyone. But again, it's my hope. There are remarkable stories of people who have dedicated their lives beyond their own incredible athletic stories, just the accomplishments that everybody's done. And quite honestly, and maybe being a bit humble, my credentials don't that my credentials pale in comparison to what we're seeing here tonight. But I honestly believe that if Amy Swanson and I got together and played some hoops, or we'd have David and Bobby Barlett in the backfield, man, we'd have a heck of a team against any of the other former Hall of Famers in this building right here tonight. So I want to acknowledge many of the people tonight that aren't here. Of course, my mother and father, Margie and Barry Jagoda, hardworking people that went above and beyond for anyone and everyone without judgment. My dad worked 3 jobs for a good portion of his life until he finally got his GED late in his life and worked tirelessly for the city of Dunkirk until his retirement. My mom was a library aide and worked at School 4. She was the secretary of the Sports Boosters Clubs and put countless hours helping Little League and Babe Ruth baseball. My mother was so well respected in the community as a library aide, it's hard to believe that they dedicated a tree in front of the School 4 building on Central Avenue in my mother's honor at her passing at just 54 years of age. But that's what they did for my mom. She was very proud of me, almost to a fault. And as everybody knows over in my corner, you could hear her say, "Not my Frankie." My mother also, as my buddies over there in the corner gang, we'd hang out by Crino's Music Store corner. If you ever go by Crino's Music Store on Central Avenue, that's where we hung. We lived right down the street. My mother would whistle, "The cops are coming," and we'd have to take off. And this way, Frankie couldn't get busted. My Aunt Mary Gallardo, who was known throughout the entire community as Aunt Mary. She helped me raise my boys, Frank and Joe, who are here tonight, with me never asking for anything. She attended all our games, football, basketball. My boys played hockey and baseball. She became our rock as my parents passed away. Aunt Mary worked in the maternity ward at Brooks Hospital from the mid-50s to 1980. So if you were born at Brooks Hospital, or you had a child in Brooks Hospital from the 50s to the 80s, my aunt was probably the first person who held you. My aunt was such a supporter of my boys and my baseball that during a 16-inning baseball game that I pitched in one season in 1978, my Aunt Mary stayed home and had the cassette player on and would tape every inning of that game, a 4-hour and 10-minute inning, or an hour and 16-inning game. She sat there and pressed play and record, play and record. When the commercials come on, of course, she turned it off. But she was there for 4.5 hours listening to Dan Palmer and his call, and she was such a dedicated person. The church where she went, she was honored by Bishop Head as a servant of the church. And there's a puzzle, a 2,000-piece puzzle of the Last Supper that Debbie and I did that is in honor of her at Holy Trinity, in the foyer of Holy Trinity. Coach Al Stumiller, I got to find it. My varsity baseball coach, Al Stumiller, is a name I've heard from on this very podium from others who spoke about the influences this man had on their lives. He instilled in you courage to overcome fear. He could get blood from a stone, and he felt that with desire, discipline, dedication, and intestinal fortitude, you could convince your opponent before you went on the field, just as you got off the bus, that you were better than them. You could beat them just by showing up if you just walked on the field with pride and class. My JV baseball coach, Bill Walters, who isn't here this evening, who had his wife pass away recently, he was the first person to take interest in me. He took me under his wing. We would play catch And after basketball practice, me and myself, we would do personal, I would go to him personally with any troubles I would have. He kept me going when I was down. He worked under Coach Stu for so many years, taking a back seat to the successes of the varsity team. Bill Schrader, local sports enthusiast who has been mentioned in many of the other inductee speeches. Bill loved the camaraderie he had with coaches and area coaches, and he followed to wish the best of all the kids. Gone way too soon, my good friend and assistant coach Sammy Spira, who spent many years coaching first base. He was part of my first sectional title, a 7-6 win over Fredonia. Gibb Snyder III, sports reporter for The Observer, who covered Dunkirk baseball for many years with tongue-in-cheek as a true Marauder. And one other person that can't be here tonight, Brian Benamati, who wrote a recommendation for me. Brian has just been diagnosed with a serious cancer issue, and we wish him well. But last but certainly not least, one of my best friends, Brian Hobbs, a great writer and conversationalist who loves sports, music, photography, and a neighborhood of close-knit friends we all called the Corner Gang. So who do we have here tonight? My two boys, Frank and Joe. Both have made me extremely proud of their athletic accomplishments, both all Western New York baseball players, and both playing collegiately. Their journeys as athletes and beyond have kept me in the loop, kept me young, so to speak. Their journeys in life has made me even prouder. Frank in the coaching field for a number of years, and Joe as a hardworking, dedicated father to my grandchildren, and to my granddaughter, Miss Peyton May Jagoda. There's never been a person in my life that has put up with my nonsense like Debbie Paul. She has supported everything I've done over the past 15 years and has endured an empty house during baseball and basketball seasons and has created a loving environment for my boys and Frank's wife, Tara, and of course, Patty May. Just so you know, she and Vin Gullo's parents are the reason why Vin Gullo and I have become more than just rival adversaries. So much so that Vin is actually sitting at my table tonight. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate how many relatives, assistant coaches, colleagues, and current and future Hall of Famers have chosen to sit with me tonight. And how about a certain group of guys formerly known as the Corner Gang, who as childhood friends had what we described the greatest childhood growing up. I am truly blessed, to say the least, as the story goes. You are only as good as the people around you. I am so proud to have no less than 6 Hall of Famers sitting at my table tonight. And I am also so proud that we have so many people here tonight from northern Chautauqua County. I think you need to give yourselves a round of applause, please. The tide is turning, and northern Chautauqua County is getting a little bit sided, so we're getting really good. Thank you to all my former players. Too many to mention, but they are here tonight. A heartfelt thank you to them who are there, the greatest teams to my worst teams that we call rebuilding. The goal was always the same, to improve throughout a season, have integrity for your school, your community, and respect for your family and friends. Winning will come, and people will support you if you can show them that. I'd like to tonight personally apologize, make a public apology. I see a few of them here tonight, to the referees during basketball. I get it. You know, I know, I get it. I finally quit basketball after 30 years. But, I mean, who gets technicals in 7th and 8th grade games? So, I'd also, but I will not apologize to umpires yet because I'm still coaching. So, well, I'll keep you on your toes, believe me. I'd also like to make sure that we acknowledge the people that are here tonight, my assistant coaches, who have done so much for me. And I don't think I think people realize what assistant coaches do. Assistant coaches are the reason why you're successful. And you get to stand up here and you get to reap the reward of what assistant coaches and people and families do for you. And if it wasn't for families and the assistant coaches who put the countless hours, just like you do, but the countless hours that they even put in more into, it just goes to show. And then we sit here and we reap these awards, just like Little League and Babe Ruth and Midget League and those coaches throughout the entire county. Those folks are the soul of what we do as varsity coaches or any coaches for that matter. And again, we get to sit here and say, hey, here we are. So it goes without saying what they've done. Some of my assistant coaches that are here right now, Joe Pucciarelli, Ryan Corbett, Donnie Stick Stoyle, Jimmy Quinn, if I miss anybody, Mikey Curtin, Joe Jagoda, Mike Green. And last but not least, and I'd like him to stand, my assistant coach for the last 18 years, my assistant coach and general manager, Eric Gloss. Well, I'll end with this. Not bad for a guy with a 78 average and an 800 score on an SAT. I added this because I don't listen to nobody, you know that. Who had two gals, Kelly Flynn and Terry Johnson, do their English homework, but had an arm that could throw mid to high 80s with a devastating curveball. Let's face it, I didn't go into college on my academic merit alone. But what I did was take full advantage of my opportunity. Not the sharpest guy, but I knew where my bread was buttered. Not bad for a guy who in 7th grade was called by his 7th grade teacher the most rude, obnoxious student he ever had in all his years of teaching. Referees and umpires might still agree with that statement, but I think I've made some adjustments. Uh-oh. Well, and not bad for a guy who tried 4 years to get back to his alma mater. I interviewed 4 times to get into Dunkirk schools. 3 years in a row I was told no. They always hired somebody else. Crazy enough, I guess, and probably because of my demeanor with referees, when they hired me, they told me, we're going to hire you, but you can't coach. Can't coach. And look where we are 30 years later. You know, things have a way of turning themselves around. So, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope I've said enough about everybody who's been here. That's my biggest fear in life, is to make sure that I cover everybody. Because, you know, I never want to leave anybody out, and I'm sure I have. It's a great honor to be here, and I thank everybody. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Frankie. Thank you.